Welcome to the Thea Lee podcast. It is January 19th, 2026, and we are continuing on day 19 of our reading through the Bible. Today we pick up with the account of Job, and there is a note at the beginning of our reading today that says that they think that this took place during the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or shortly thereafter. However, it could have occurred as late as the exile during the 6th century BC. The story of Job goes there was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless. He was a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. He also had many servants, and he was, in fact, the richest person in that entire area. It talked about how Job's sons would take turn preparing feasts in their homes, and they would also invite their 3 sisters to celebrate with them. When these celebrations ended, sometimes after several days, Job would purify his children. He would rise early in the morning and offer a burnt offering for each of them, because he said to himself that maybe they had sinned or cursed God in their hearts, and this was his regular practice. One day, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord. So now we're in heaven in this story. The accuser, Satan, came with them. The Lord asked Satan, "Where have you come from?" And Satan answered that he had been patrolling the earth, watching everything that was going on. So the Lord says to Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all of the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil." And Satan replies, "Well, of course he does. He has great reason to, because you've always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You've made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." So the Lord says, "Okay, you may test him. Do whatever you want, but don't harm him physically." So Satan left the Lord's presence. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting at the older brother's house, a messenger arrived at Job's home with the news, "Your oxen were plowing, with the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabaeans raided us. They stole all the animals and killed all the farmhands. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news, "The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and the shepherds. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, a third messenger arrived with the news that 3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you. And while he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news. Your sons and daughters were feasting in their oldest brother's home. Suddenly a powerful wind swept in from the wilderness and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed, and all of your children are dead. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you. Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground to worship. He said, "I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise be the name of the Lord." In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. So then we go back to heaven, and again, all the members of the heavenly court come to present themselves before the Lord, along with the accuser, Satan. And the Lord asks him again, "Where have you come from?" And he said, "I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything going on." Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil, and he has maintained his integrity, even though you urged me to harm him without cause." So then Satan replies, "Skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life, but reach out and take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face." So the Lord says, "Okay, just spare his life, but you can test him." So Satan left the Lord's presence, and he struck Job with terrible boils from head to foot. Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the ashes. His wife came and said to him, "Are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die." But Job replied to her that she spoke like a foolish woman. He said, "Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad?" So Job still did nothing wrong. Now 3 of Job's friends heard of all the things that had happened to him, and so they came to visit him. They were Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. When they saw Job from a distance, they literally did not recognize who he was. So they start crying, and they tear their robes and throw dust into the air on their heads to show their grief. Then they went and sat on the ground with him for 7 days and nights and did not speak, because they saw that his suffering was too deep to talk. Then Job finally speaks. And he curses the day he was born. He does not curse the Lord, but he does complain. Obviously, he is in deep anguish. At the end of his long speech, he says, "What he has always feared has happened to him. What I dreaded has come true. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest. Only trouble comes." Then his friend Eliphaz tries to comfort him. And he starts out by telling Job in the past that Job has always encouraged other people. Job would strengthen those who were weak and support those who were falling. He encouraged those others who had shaky knees. But now, when trouble strikes, he loses heart. So he tries to encourage him and say, doesn't your reverence for God give you confidence? Doesn't your life of integrity give you hope? There is so much in today's reading that has stood out to me. So first of all, it talks about how Job was a blameless man, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. So it tells us that this is possible. There is this quote today that I hear people say that, oh, I'm just a sinner saved by grace. And I don't especially like that quote because, first of all, why are you just identifying as a sinner? But Job's story shows us that it is possible to be blameless. It is possible to be a person of complete integrity. I mean, yes, I know that we are not perfect as humans, but Job, the Lord says that he is blameless, and the Lord says he's a man of complete integrity. So this is possible. And then, of course, we have this conversation, and this may be the only time in the Bible that I can remember that we have a conversation between Satan and the Lord. So Satan exists, and he literally is called the accuser. He patrols around the world looking for people to accuse and ways to kill, steal, and destroy from humans. But then here the Lord is, and he has Job that he is obviously proud of. He's bragging about Job. Like, have you noticed how great this guy is? Why don't you look at him? And he allows Satan to test him because Satan's pretty sure the only reason that Job is so great is because he has been blessed. But so here's the second thing. So number one, it's possible to be blameless. It's possible to be a person of complete integrity because he fears God and stays away from evil. So there's a formula there, but the formula goes on because then he says, Job has a good reason to do this because you've always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. So what's the result of Job being a man of integrity, of Job fearing God and staying away from evil? The result is that God has protected him and made him prosper in everything he does. So we should pay attention to that formula. There is a reason to love the Lord and to follow the Lord. But then it shows here that through his testing, Job stands firm. Satan's saying he's never going to stand firm if he loses all of these things. He's only doing it for the benefits. But he takes the benefits away, and Job still doesn't sin. It shows that Job's faith and love and fear of God is really true. Then we go on to Job's wife. So it's funny to me that all of his children are taken, all of his possessions are taken, but Satan leaves his wife. And now we see why. Because she literally comes to him and says, why are you still maintaining your integrity? Just curse God and die. So I'm sorry, ladies, but obviously this wife didn't do well. So we kind of see this nagging wife thing happening again. It doesn't matter though. Job, of course, still maintains his integrity, and he just says that she's being a foolish woman. Then we have Job's friends who honestly seem pretty legit. They come and just sit with him quietly for 7 days, and maybe we should learn a little bit from that also. There's too many times in life that we think we have to offer explanations or offer condolences when maybe just our quiet presence is needed. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk again tomorrow.